Young and the Restless next week. Noah's brutal beatdown and Phyllis's sultry seduction. Alright, let's start with what is going on with Noah's very worried mom, Sharon Newman, Sharon case. By the end of this week, she is upset to find out Noah went and checked himself out of the hospital without calling or notifying her and his dad, Nick Newman, Joshua Morrow. The hospital tells them, he's an adult and the doctor said he could go, so he went. Sharon and Nick are freaking out when they come to the hospital and see Noah's room is empty. The guard didn't even bother to warn them. That ticks them off understandably. Of course, when Sharon and Nick try repeatedly to call Noah, well, he's not answering their calls. So they head over to the shadow room to confront Mitch, Matt, Clark. And guess what? That's also where Noah went when he left the hospital. Now, he wasn't looking for Mitch. He was actually looking for Sienna, but that's not who he found. Noah Newman's kidnapping and a web of deceit on YNR. Mitch said he's glad to see Noah on his feet and he's acting all nice. And then Matt turns up the heat and confronts Noah about his affair with his wife Sienna. But like all cheaters, of course, Noah denies it. And he claims he and Sienna are just friends. Mitch does not buy it and says Noah repaid his kindness by sleeping with his wife. Mitch calls Noah a liar and a cheat and wants to know if he slept with Sienna in their marriage bed. Then sketchy cop Detective Burrow, Matt Cohen, shows up with questions for Noah about the accident. Burrow wants to take Noah for a drive out to the crash site to see if it jogs his memory, but he doesn't want to go with the detective. He says he's got to go meet his parents, Sharon and Nick. But Burrow says that's not a request. He tells Noah he has no choice. And since Burrow's got a badge, well, off he goes. After the dirty cop takes Noah away, of course, that's when Sharon and Nick show up and confront Mitch, but he plays dumb and says he hasn't seen Noah. And then Mitch further claims he thought Noah was still in the hospital and tells Sharon and Nick that they are not welcome at his club. A terrifying confrontation and escalating threats on Young and the Restless. Sharon and Nick are threatening to force the truth out of Mitch after they ask him where Sienna is and maybe she's seen Noah. So Mitch tells Nick, "I have no idea where Sienna is. And even if I knew, I wouldn't tell you and Sharon, you need to go away." Matt says that Noah is probably trying to get away from Nick and Sharon because they are annoying helicopter parents and Nick and Sharon are threatening to call the cops. And Matt says, "Fine, I'll have you arrested for trespassing and threatening me." And Nick says if Matt did anything to Noah, he's a dead man. Yet another threat. So next week we are going to find out what happened after bad guy Detective Burrow took Noah from the shadow room. Looks like Burrow also snatched Sienna because Noah is unconscious and Sienna's trapped with Noah. They're in some sort of room. Looks like they're locked in maybe a cell. Probably just some basement room somewhere. And Sienna is trying desperately to wake up Noah. He's very disoriented and is asking Sienna what happened. So I think Matt had Burrow stash Sienna and Noah so he can torment them later. Elsewhere next week, Sharon is lying down in her hotel room when the fire alarm goes off and of course she grabs her purse. Rushes to get out the door, but when she opens it, guess what? Matt is standing there looking menacing. A little terrifying. Sharon gasps and yells out, "You?" She's all alone. She's at his mercy. So, I wonder if Matt is about to play Pokemon and collect them all. Collect all of his enemies and dump them in that same closet. So that means Nick might be the next one to go after Matt gets hold of Sharon. I feel like this story is about to jump into hyperdrive as we head into the last week and a half of November sweeps. So Mitch may be dead soon if Sharon gets her way. I mean, Nick's already threatened to kill him. Sharon's threatened to kill him. I feel like the guy is headed for the cemetery. Phyllis's seduction of Kane heats up on YNR. Also at the end of this week at Society, Kane Ashby, Billy Flynn, wants to know if Phyllis is trying to seduce him. And Kane admits that if Phyllis is flirting with him, he would be flattered, he'd be intrigued. And Kane also wants to remind Phyllis he's still in love with Lily Winters, Crystal Khalil. But Phyllis says, "You know what, Kane? That's never going to happen." And Phyllis makes it very clear that she thinks she and Kane are a good match emotionally, professionally, and according to her, sexually. And then Phyllis kisses Kane just as Lily walks in. The queen of timing. Phyllis says she would never ask Kane to change on Young and the Restless. Obviously drawing the difference between her and Lily, and then she takes off. So Kane tells Lily that that was nothing. Phyllis is playing games and he's working an angle on her. But Phyllis clearly made an impression on Kane, telling him that he's never going to get with Lily because Kane makes one last try. Kane lashes out on Y&R. And Lily rejects him completely, totally, firmly, even though she was just telling Nate Hastings, Sean Dominic. Well, maybe, you know. Kane gets upset and says Lily never loved him as much as he loved her. So, broken-hearted Kane chases down Phyllis at the GCAC and Damien Kane tells her she's right. Time for a fresh start. Tells Phyllis he wants to forget the past, focus on the future, and Kane asks Phyllis if she's free tonight. So next week, Kane is upstairs with Phyllis in her room at the GCAC, and she wants to know if she finally has all of his attention. They're making out, the whole tonsil hockey thing. Kane and Phyllis are getting hot and heavy. And unless somebody interrupts, looks like she may get what she wants and hit the sheets with Kane. Claire, Holden, and Kyle's love triangle intensifies on Young and the Restless. Also, next week, Claire Grace Newman, Haley Aaron, is telling Holden Novak, Nathan Owens, that they need to talk about what happened in LA. And I'm sure that was them making love on Halloween and she was getting all wild. And of course, he's got that big crush on her. So, I wonder if Claire is going to put Holden firmly in the friend zone, or maybe Claire tells Holden it was great, but it was a one and done. I mean, Claire already told Victoria Newman, Amelia Heinley, that Holden is not the man for her, but that doesn't mean she won't change her mind. Especially because I think Claire is going to find out, Kyle Abbott, Michael Mealer, is going to find out very soon that Claire slept with Holden. And I think Kyle is going to hassle her about having another man in her bed. Even though Claire broke up with Kyle and she was completely single. But I think he's going to keep on harping about Holden being a bad man and Claire making bad choices. And that could send her running right back into Holden's the Crimson Lights windows as a storm rolled across Genoa City. But inside the chaos had nothing to do with the weather. It was the week everything shifted, where tensions snapped, old wounds bled fresh, and desires that had simmered too long suddenly broke their restraints. Noah's nightmare begins. Noah Newman stepped out from the alley behind Society, breath fogging in the cold air. He had stayed late cleaning up after an event and was exhausted. Physically, mentally, and emotionally. He wasn't used to this version of Genoa City anymore. Things felt edgier. Darker. Like danger was hiding under every street lamp. He didn't realize danger was already following him. A figure trailed behind him. Silent, deliberate. Noah felt a prickle run down his spine but brushed it off. He tightened his grip on his jacket and rounded the corner toward the parking lot. Hey, Newman. Noah turned just in time for a fist to collide with his jaw. He hit the pavement hard. What? Who? He gasped, but another punch shut him up. His vision blurred as the attacker, a muscular man with a hood shadowing his face, dragged him up by the collar. This is a message, the man growled. Stay out of things that don't concern you. Noah's mind scrambled. What things? I haven't. A brutal kick slammed into his ribs. Pain exploded everywhere. He tasted blood and concrete. Another blow came. Then another. Noah curled in on himself, desperate just to stay conscious. He thought of his family. His father, his mother, Summer, Faith. He thought of Allie. His chest tightened, terrified at the idea she might find him like this. Or worse, never see him again. Tell your dad he should have backed off, the attacker muttered. Then the sound of a car screeching nearby sent the assailant running. Noah barely lifted his head in time to see headlights sweep toward him before everything went black. Allie's heartbreaking discovery. Allie, slow down, Summer called as they walked out of Society. What's the rush? I just want to make sure Noah got home safe. He wasn't answering my texts, and he left before us. Allie's voice trembled slightly. She hated how Noah sometimes carried stress alone. Summer reached out to reassure her, but Allie suddenly froze. Oh my God! Summer followed her gaze, and screamed. Noah! Allie dropped to her knees beside him, hands trembling as she lifted his bruised, bleeding face. Noah, baby. Please wake up. Noah! Summer frantically called 911, shouting orders and panicked pleas as Allie sobbed over Noah's limp body. And above them, the storm continued to rage, as if mirroring the fury that was about to erupt in the Newman family. Nick and Victor declare war. Within an hour, the hospital was swarming with Newmans. Victor paced like a lion barely contained by the flimsy tiles under his shoes. Nick wrung his hands, trying to keep his rage in check. Sharon held Faith close, fighting tears. Dr. Ritchie finally approached. He's stable, but the injuries are significant. Several fractured ribs, a concussion, bruising. He's lucky someone found him when they did. Faith gasped. Sharon closed her eyes, shaking. Nick clenched his fists so tight his knuckles cracked. Who did this? That's the thing, Dr. Ritchie said. Noah regained consciousness long enough to say he believed it wasn't random. Someone sent a message. Victor's eyes burned with familiarity. Anger. Possession. That means, Victor said, voice like ice, it was someone targeting the Newman family. Nick's jaw tightened. Then they picked the wrong day. Because we're coming for them. Victor placed a firm hand on his son's shoulder. No. We are coming for them. And just like that, a war was ignited. Phyllis's dangerous game begins. Meanwhile, across town at the Grand Phoenix, Phyllis Summers lounged on her king-size bed, wearing a deep crimson silk robe that matched the fire in her eyes. She'd poured herself a glass of wine and was staring at her phone, contemplating her next move. Phyllis wasn't the type to sit idle while others schemed. She was born to scheme. To manipulate. To seduce when necessary. And right now, she needed leverage. Someone had hurt Noah, Summer's brother, her daughter's family. That made it her business. She had a theory. One she didn't plan on sharing. Not yet. Time to wake up the beast, she whispered to herself, sliding her robe off one shoulder. Men always confess more when they're motivated. She snapped a few tantalizing photos. Nothing too revealing, just enough to get someone's attention. Then she sent a message. Phyllis. We need to talk. Tonight. Come to my suite. Alone. I promise you won't regret it. The 3 dots typing back told her everything she needed to know. He was hooked. But this wasn't about pleasure. It was about power. The man who answered her call. A knock came less than 30 minutes later. Phyllis smoothed her hair, adjusted her robe, and opened the door with a sly smile. Come in, she purred. The man stepped inside. Tall, charming, and dangerous in all the ways that mattered. Someone who had crossed paths with the Newmans more than once. Someone who knew exactly which enemies might go after Noah. Phyllis shut the door behind them and sauntered closer, hips swaying, voice dripping honey. You and I, she whispered, are going to have a very productive conversation. He smirked. Is that what you call this little seduction routine?